A bunch of you sent me this video and asked how can something like this happen? Well, I want to talk about it. So today we're going to make a breakdown cake. What do we need? We need our bowl. Then what do we need? We need a little bit of, let's take a little bit of breakdown. There we go. Put that in there. And then we'll go ahead and mix it with a little bit of bad luck. It's starting to look pretty good. And then what can we do from here? Let's see. Oh, I know. We'll add water. More.
Get the kid!
Jesus Christ? Sweet Jesus. Maybe we should go.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Oh my God.
Alright, this ride's gonna be shut down for a while.
This is not a good one.
Where's your shoe?
Oh, Lord. Oh my God. Oh my God. Jesus, you late, bro. Oh my God.
Wow. Let's talk about it.
Now get ready. Here we go.
Okay, today's video is coming to us from over there at Six Flags Over Texas in Arlington, Texas. Basically, the Roaring Rapids ride experienced a little bit of a problem the other day, and let's go ahead and look at this video because it is quite interesting. I'm going to put this up on this screen because I feel like it's easier these days to do a little bit of old-fashioned watch and point with you guys. Okay, so let's take a look at this.
Get the kid!
Jesus Christ? Sweet Jesus. Maybe we should go.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, so what do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have five rafts piled up already. And then this happens. So this is where everything starts going to crap and everyone's like, what is going on here? And then we have a 6th raft over here that's backing up. No good. No good at all. Okay, so let's start this back over from the beginning and look at it a little in depth here. Okay, first of all, we have this water coming in off the side. This ride uses 2 jets back there basically to rotate and move the boats around. Kind of like a lot of rides like this very similarly have like big looking wood barrels that turn to help keep the boats moving down that direction. This ride uses some water and pumps to hydraulically push the boats around. Okay, now, if we look at this video very carefully, and I'll have to pull up a close shot for everybody, but basically, right here, in this area, right there where you see this looks like a mechanic that's standing there, and he's standing on this looks like a wood pillar of some sort, and then this yellow boat is smashed into that wood pillar. Well, it is the start of all of this. That yellow boat came down this river, and it had a flat bladder on that side. You could tell it's flat because it's completely smashed in on that side. That's not typical. Normally, when these boats come down here, they have a nice inflated ring all the way around. And this one in this particular spot, because there's multiple bladders inside these things, in this particular spot, this one over here did not have an inflated bladder. It was flat. So it just happened to have the bad luck crew, and it basically smashed into that guy head on and probably stuck there and just stopped there for a minute. Now we move this video forward a little bit, and then we move to this part. Now this is obviously this is cut for time because there was some sort of, they stopped in the middle of it there. So now the situation has changed. Now all the boats are back off of each other, and now this yellow boat in the center, this is the one that's in trouble. This yellow boat in the center, if you look at it, people standing around, and on the inside of the ring there is now filled with water. Now, this boat is taking on water. It is not necessarily sinking because it still has plenty of other bladders inflated. These things are meant to float. But what happened here is that boat with that pinched down bladder, the other boats came along the outside of it and they started pushing on it. Let's go back just a second and look at that again. So as you can see, this red, green, other green, and it looks like a third green boat down there maybe in the corner. These boats are not only pinching this yellow one in its place, so the yellow one is wedging this first green one to the concrete over there. The yellow one is wedging this other green one to the concrete as well. These inlets to the dual lifts over here are only wide enough for one boat. So if you put one boat dead center, nothing can happen. So right now, with the force of all the rapids coming down, the water is coming towards the pumps on this side. Remember, they're going on your screen, it's going right to left, and the river is flowing that way. So as the river flow movement, as the river current is coming down right to left, it is pushing that yellow boat further into that pier in the center, what looks like a pier sitting right there. And then there is a boat that comes down eventually and gets stuck between the yellow and one wall. Don't know which one happened first. And then there's another boat that came down and it got stuck between the yellow and the other wall. Now you have all three mechanically wedged in there. With the force of the current of the water, it's not going anywhere because that current is extremely strong. It stopped all of those guys from going anywhere like that. And then because there's no stopping in those rides, there's no real like cattle guard. Some rides do have like a gate that pops up in the middle of it, and that gate can stop some boats. I'm not sure honestly if this ride has that or not, because these things are typically submerged underwater where you can't see them. I'm not sure if this ride in particular has that, but it doesn't look like it did. So basically what happened was once this stopped, the people went basically, whoops, this is a problem. And then they tried to wait to see if another boat would come down. And basically it's the same thing I would do. Just wait for another boat to come down. And then typically, because there's not enough room to pass on either side, that boat is either going to bump this yellow one into the left side, or it's going to bump it into the right side, and everything is all fixed. You don't have to do anything, no big deal. But this boat had a flat bladder. That's the reason why it's pinched right up against that pillar like that. So when you have a flat bladder, they don't bounce anymore. They just sit there. And they didn't understand that at the time. So this one of these two boats came along, and instead of going boing and freed up everything, and it's just like, yay, I'm done, it just went and stuck. And they went, uh-oh, that's not good. So at that point, they probably called for a ride stop. Now, in the categories of stopping rides, you have a ride stop, which simply just stops motion. and then an E-stop, which stops all movement, pumps, everything else. So they probably pressed ride stop. So the lift stopped, the turntable stopped, they stopped dispatching boats, but the pumps are still running. And then because you've already released a handful of boats that are still in the flume working their way around. Remember, if you need basic knowledge on this stuff, I have a flume video on how these things work. It goes over the same type of principles again. So these other boats were still going around the flume. Remember, it takes several minutes to get around these things. And from the time they hit ride stop to where this video is, now they have a boat over here that's waiting. This might have been the first one that made it past, but it's not on the lift. It's just sitting at the base. Then they've got this boat here, that one, that one, that one, and that one. And they're all just kind of stuck in that area now. So they still have the pumps running, and they're trying to figure out what to do. So here comes one of these two other boats, and they're thinking, okay, maybe we'll get lucky, it'll hit it, and then it will knock them all loose, and then it'll go on its merry way again. But it didn't. Kind of that perfect storm of events. It stuck on the other side, or maybe it bounced off the center and kind of just meandered, just kind of rolled itself around to the other side until it eventually just stuck in that side as well. Now it's like, well, crap. Now we have 3 boats stuck, which means all the boats behind it can't get done. We need help. So they probably called for maintenance. The maintenance shop is pretty close to this thing. So it's like, well, let me rephrase that. Aerial view looks kind of like there might be a maintenance shop close by. I don't know that for sure. So the maintenance guy shows up, says, what's going on? They got, well, these guys are stuck and these guys are sitting here like this. So he goes down there and basically sees if there's anything he can do. He's not sure of how much force is pushing on all these boats. So he's hopeful he could just maybe step off there and kind of like give it the old push his leg on one side and just kind of like push that boat away from there. And hopefully everything will be okay and it kind of loosens up everything and then it starts moving again. This is not the case. Well, while this is happening, these boats are going to continue to jostle in the current and everything else, and they're all kind of touching each other, and they're going up and down with each other as this water is passing by, because the water is not very calm in this area. So eventually what happens is it starts pitching the yellow boat at an angle. So the yellow boat right now is sitting a little bit like this. So the end that's facing towards the rest of the river is kind of up, and the end that's up against this pillar is kind of down. Okay, so it's not much. But what's going to happen is that as these other 2 boats become more and more wedged, they're going to make the situation much more worse, because they're going to take that end that's up and they're going to try to roll underneath that end, and they're going to continue to lift that end further and further up. This is evident. Let's play the video back here. This is evident because this boat has more than likely, see how it's now very pitched at that angle. Now it's really high up on the side. Now this boat has dipped into the water. That's the reason why it's full of water right now, because now the edge of this boat has now dipped into the water. Now at that point, once it starts taking on water, everyone goes, uh-oh, this has just become a very big problem. Now, if they haven't already before this, which I believe they did just prior to this video picking back up, they basically e-stopped the ride at that point and shut the pumps down. And they're like, okay, we shut the pumps down. Rapids rides are not great when it comes to shutting the pumps off. They have all sorts of unintended responses, all sorts of dangers and things that happen along with them. This is one of the reasons everyone's asking, how come they didn't just hit the e-stop to start with? This is one of the reasons why you don't want to just hit the e-stop at the first sign of trouble, because hitting the e-stop and killing water on the entire attraction can cause other problems in other places. It could cause one of the other boats further up the stream to hit a weir and possibly capsize and flip over. So you never want to do that. You really, really, really want to pause and think before you decide to hit that e-stop button, unless, of course, people are in the water. As soon as someone looks like or is about to hit the water, definitely have to e-stop it every single time, regardless. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Swift water current in these rides, you can't outswim it. You can't catch it and hold on to it either. Inside that river is an extremely powerful hydraulic force that you just cannot overcome. So it's like you never tried that stuff. As soon as anybody knows of anybody that got in the water, even in the shallow end of the ride, it's an instant e-stop every single time. So what's happened where this video picks up is that they've just e-stopped the ride. And now you have those unintended effects that I was talking about. So now all the water that was in all those columns for those pumps lifting up to the very top of the ride, all that water suddenly went up and then went back down. Essentially, you flushed the toilet on this thing, and all the water has come out, and it's now pushing all of these boats backwards. Well, this boat, probably rapidly filling up with water, has now got these people in absolute panic. Can't say it wouldn't be the same way, right? So you got these people in absolute panic. They're all trying to jump out of the boat. Unfortunately, since you flushed the toilet and all the water's coming backwards through the attraction now, there is nothing is stuck anymore. Now everything is starting to accelerate backwards, away from everything else. And that's where this whole cluster F of a deal is happening right here. This is why everyone starts trying to leave this boat, and then suddenly they all start jumping out, because now their dock, their point of getting out of there, is going away further. And it's not good. People start to panic a lot. So let's pick this back up. Okay, so we have this kid in the water, and he is trying to swim for it. He's trying to get back up to this dock, and they are trying to grab him at the same time. And they manage to get a hold of him, and they start pulling him up, which is good. Okay, these rafts, again, they weigh thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds per raft. So these things weigh at least about half of a car, at least. That's not with people on them. That's just the raft by itself. They weigh about a ton with nothing in it. Okay, at this point you can see the water is still moving backwards, because again, all that water that was up on top of the ride is now starting to drain backwards through the pumps, and it's coming back down to this area, and it's now creating a reverse current flow where these guys are going out. The employee is trying to respond here. She brought some life preservers just in case they couldn't get somebody. She could throw them in there. The maintenance guy is still trying to help and do what he can, but basically a lot of people jumped the boat just to get out of that situation. Again, panic set in. These are the type of instances where panic happens. And you can see just in that small amount of time.
Oh my God.
See if I can do this. Just in that small amount of time, while that action was happening, all those boats have now drifted probably, 50, 60 feet away from where they were. They're all now going backwards. Now they're going backwards into the holding area, into the retention area, which is where water goes when you shut these rides off. No harm to them. They're just simply going to sit there. Even the people on the raft that had 1.5 feet of water on the inside of it, they're under no danger. They could sit back down. That raft isn't going to sink further. Even if somehow it did sink further, which it wouldn't, they're simply just going to sit there. And the raft would probably, honestly, in those areas, the raft would probably bottom out on the ground underneath, and everyone would simply just be able to stand probably waist to chest high in water out in that area where it is. I don't know for sure how deep it is out there, but typically once you get past the lift area going backwards into the flume, it's typically not very deep. Waist like 3 feet deep, somewhere around there. 3 feet, maybe 4 feet deep. Not much.
Oh my God.
Okay, so if we bring this guy back to the beginning, what we're going to do is we're going to pay attention to the water level that's on the walls over there. And you could see that in this area, you can see there's a black stripe on the wall, basically. It's a dirt ring, essentially. You can see the water is about 18 inches from the top of that dirt ring. And then that top of that dirt ring, that is where the stagnant water level is. When they shut that ride off and everything stopped and all the water has stopped in the ride, that is where the water level is. So right now the water level is a foot low with the pumps running. Again, watch that video if you haven't seen it already on how rapids rides work, because you say, where is that all that water? It's in the flume. It's circulating because the water level goes down while the flume operates. And then once you shut the flume off, the water level comes back up in the storage areas. So as you can see, we jump from there, and then now we go back up here. Now you can see the water level is still low, but it's much higher than what it was a little bit ago because the water level is already starting to come back up because of all the water converging down there in the base. And you see by the time I stop this video, you can see the water level is pretty much back to where it's almost at in its stagnant area. All the water sitting right there. So let's talk dangers real quick. Anytime these events happen, most of the time people freak out and they start over-exaggerating the situation of how much danger they were in. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being zero danger at all, 10 being that there's a good chance that somebody really could have died in this situation, these people were probably at about a 7. Honestly, about a 7. And where I get that number is right here from how much this raft has tipped in that amount of time. Had the operations crew not e-stopped the ride and shut the water flow down when they did, it could have taken that raft and flipped it all the way over. And that's a really bad situation. Anytime you flip one of these rafts over, it's not good. There's been plenty of fatalities in the past where rafts have flipped over and trapped people underneath. If nothing else, you have all sorts of moving parts underneath the water that people can become entangled in and all sorts of stuff like that. Now, very serious situation. Absolutely, it was a very serious situation at this point in time. Did it have to be? No, it didn't have to be. Could they have e-stopped the ride earlier? It's like, yeah, they could have e-stopped the ride earlier. Honestly, when the first boat stuck down there and then it didn't move, and then when boat number 3 came down there, that was probably enough right there to e-stop it and shut it down. Normally these things have those rotating barrels to both sides to not prevent boats from stacking up like that and to kind of funnel them back into the lift. But this one's quite a unique one. It's got a dual lift element, which you don't normally see on these rides. Normally it's a single lift. So you have both barrels turning against each other, drawing the boats into the center. And this one has a channel. It could go left or go right. Now we could look at these two photos right here. And basically, all I'm doing in this is I went to the POV that's official from the park to get this stuff, just to see the area that we're talking about. So this particular raft went in that near side lift inlet. That was a side that you couldn't really see, covered up by the rocks. And as you could see in the background there's the water jets shooting out, and those are meant to try to push the boats to one side or the other, try to get them to like, okay, we need to get a boat spinning. Why spinning? Because spinning doesn't like to stop. Stopped things bounce. They get stuck. So you try to spin the rafts. That way they don't get stuck. They bounce off of things and kind of roll into things. So you want spinning rafts. You don't want stagnant, stopped, not turning, because they typically can't overcome something like that center peak where it just kind of like got stuck in there. So those are the water streams back over there. And then if you look way off to the back, to the right is the area inlet to one of the storage retention ponds, and to the left is the other storage retention pond. This, let me see if I can switch this right here. All right, this is a little bit better. This is from just a little bit further up that river. See, down here, dead center is where they just came from. Those are the rapids coming back towards the lift. And then here's one of the nozzles that's spraying water out, trying to keep the boats moving and trying to keep them from stalling in this big dead spot. I don't like the really wide cattle areas of these rides because they typically have a bad history of stalling boats inside of them, causing traffic jams. Yeah, a bunch of boats together is just a traffic jam. So they cause traffic jams and do all sorts of other stuff. You can't see the other water storage area that's just off to the side of that picture. You can't see it. But if you look off to the left here, you can see the entrance to that back water storage area, which is underneath their sky coaster right over there. I've got another picture of that. Okay, so here's some Google mapping, because I like, you know me, I like to Google map stuff. So here's some Google mapping of this particular area. And down here towards the bottom, this is the flume coming from the top of the ride. It comes down here at the bottom of the picture and then comes back around. And then where I've done my crude drawings here, the flume continues right between the red and the green line. And it continues straight on out into our problem area over here. This crossover looks to be where either the entrance or the exit queue line crosses over. Again, not really familiar with the ride. Can't tell you for sure. But what I've done with these red and green areas on here is I've shown, look, this green area is water storage. When they stop the ride, this simply just makes the bottom of the ride bigger. There's nothing back there. It's simply just a big open area that allows water to expand and go back over there. It could be slanted. It could be graded towards one angle. Typically not. They're normally flat. But anyways, that's just water storage to one side. So this back part over here, this is also water storage, but it looks like they couldn't expand the pond out because of this pathway right here. So basically they made water storage come out to here, and then this is a giant water storage pond, also conveniently underneath their sky coaster. So it's actually a water thing for their sky coaster, and then they can also do stuff like probably put boats out over there. This looks like it was taken during the off-season time. So they could probably store boats over there when they need to. I know there was another spot further up top where they could take boats out of it. So water storage, water storage. So when they E-stopped it, everything down here, all the water rushed backwards into either this green side or this red side. And that's where all the water went. Now, if the rafts decided to back up into this red side, there's no problem with it. It's big enough, it's wide enough, it's meant to do that. So someone will have to go fishing for those rafts to get them. But what someone would have to do anyway is play musical boats with that particular thing. So they're going to have to get the boats out. They have to recover those people off of them, whether it be an actual little floating boat that they might have, may or may not have, or what have you. They will recover those people off of there, and then they will simply just push all those boats that were loaded right back out into that water, probably up against those docks, and then offload the people. A really long way around it, which I doubt they would do at that point. I don't know how they actually unloaded the ride, but I mean, you go so far as to simply just start the pumps back up, and it will suck all those boats right back into the flume again, and they can just continue on their way where they used to be. But at this point, when that happened, I doubt it. It's lockout. Everybody off the ride. They're not doing anything like that. Now, what could we say about prevention? Is this the first time this has happened? Not sure. But I do know they're worried about it happening. Because if we look, again, I took this photo from their POV. I just happened to keen in on it. But this was that same POV video as it was coming back up the lift. I stopped it right here because this is the catwalk out there where the maintenance person and the ride operator were standing. And then on the way back from that catwalk right here, there is this person right where this kid with the green hat is. You can see the legs right there. There is this person right here sitting there with the umbrella. So that tells me that this happens enough to where the boat maybe doesn't go all the way to one side or the other, or maybe they're trying to watch people. I don't know that for sure. Maybe they're just trying to prevent people from getting off on those catwalks down there, but they felt for some reason it's necessary to pay somebody to sit at the base of that lift. Why? I don't know. Is it to deal with the boats coming in and having to bounce between the two sides? Is it to prevent people from coming off? I don't know. All I know is it's on the rides I've seen, it's kind of unusual to have a employee down at the lift base on a water ride. You don't normally see that all the time. So that's kind of a weird red flag in my book. So at the end of the day, everyone got off the ride. Everyone was okay. No one got hurt, that it looked like. There were no Dippin' Dots used in the evacuation of this ride, because again, ride evacuations do not equal Dippin' Dots. It's not a thing. And the people were on the luckier side that that boat didn't go further over. And I could say I agree when ops didn't e-stop it at the very beginning, when one boat stuck there or two boats stuck there. But by about the time boat number 3 got there, that should have been the time to hit the e-stop and say, okay, shut the pumps down. This is going to be a problem. And then had that happened, they would have just been out there floating, and it would have been a simple recovery. But remember that whole cluster with the people trying to jump off the boat, and where that looked like really nasty, where everyone that messaged me about this was like, WTF is going on here? Like, this looks horrible. It's like, yeah, that does look horrible. But remember, that was all happening because people were trying to jump off of a boat that was suddenly moving in reverse from the direction they were trying to go. It makes a lot of people look stupid. I don't know if you ever tried to jump off of a raft and it just moves backwards. It's not fun. It only takes you once or twice to figure out not to do that. I've actually done it once, and it almost ended badly on a rapids ride, just like something like that. Ours was a smaller, 9-person tubes, which realistically the way they rode them, 6-person tubes. But we had to ride off sitting stagnant. The tubes were just in the run out down there. That's where they were all just sitting. And I just was there, so I just hopped onto one because I needed to check the belts in it or something. It was a day when the park was not open. I was just out doing something out there. So I just hopped onto the boat, and then I went to go hop right back off, then realizing all my movement, everything I did inside that raft, kept pushing the raft further up and down the flume and away from the area that I needed to go. So there was no one else there, and I didn't feel like calling over the radio for someone to come hold the boat, which we now did. It's like, okay, someone come down and hold the boat, or you tie it off with a rope beforehand. So I literally had to very carefully go to one side and then use my foot to push off the back side of the wall and push the boat towards the catwalk. And then while the boat was almost about to hit the catwalk, I quickly hopped over to the other side and hopped off. But when I did that, the act of me hopping off pushed the boat backwards very quick back into the water, and I think I ended up like with my shin on the metal rail and my foot in the water. Luckily, I didn't go all the way into the water because that's just a hard one to explain back at the shop when you show up. But yeah. So boats unloading in reverse causes a lot of people to fall and do stuff like that. So anyways, this was just a little, this is what I noticed, this is what happened. It's like, flat bladder caused it to stick. They probably waited too long to hit the e-stop because they noticed the boat was literally about to flip over, and then they hit the e-stop, and that's when everyone jumped ship, and it just looked really bad. It looked really bad. It did. It looked really, really bad. But it's still not one of those times when I'm like, thoughts and prayers go out. It's like, no, they weren't in that much danger. Realistically, the only people that were in real danger during that whole thing were the people that jumped into the water. And like that one kid that jumped and fell into the water, he was the one that was in the most danger. Because anytime you're in a water ride, don't care what it is, stay out of the water, if at all possible. Like, I understand they e-stopped that, and it was under e-stop conditions, but still, I don't like what's inside water rides. It's not good down there. There's a lot of mechanical, heavy-duty stuff to become pinned under and stuck in. So it's not a good thought in my mind. Anyways, I wanted to make this quick video. I don't know what's going on with this year. It seems like the industry keeps throwing out these things for like every week. It seems like I turn on stuff and it's just like, what is going on? People are sending me new videos. Hey, what about this one? What happened here? What happened there? For people who do ask a lot, like, hey, can you tell us about this particular ride failure or something like that? It's like, I'm not good with the investigation stuff of what happened years ago. Like this particular one here, it's like I've flipped boats over on a rapids ride before. I've flipped them over. I've seen it. And I knew the conditions of which it happened. So when I see one edge starting to dip underneath the water line and the other edge is coming up, it's like, whoop, that's flipping territory right there. That's like, I know that heartburn. So I could see the flat bladder, the water filling with one side, the e-stop condition where the boats went backwards. I could see all that stuff from my experience. That's why I jumped in. I'm like, okay, this is what's going on with this particular ride. Let's talk collateral damage for a moment too. The maintenance people at the park, they're doing their job. They're doing what they're supposed to. Those particular rafts, bladders go flat. They do. It happens. Midday, fine one cycle, flat the next cycle. So that stuff happens. There's not much you can do. It. Operations tries to catch it when they see it. Sometimes they don't see it for a cycle or two. It just so happens that this flat bladder happened to hit that one spot. I mean, it is just like it's a perfect storm of events that just kind of lined up. So is the ride safe? Yes, the ride's safe. Would I go on the ride the next time I'm there? It's like, yes, I would. Actually, I want to see what the whole dual lift thing is. That looks interesting. So I actually want to go on the ride now because I'm like, I've never been on one with a dual lift, and I want to see that. I don't think down on the park. I don't think down on the manufacturer or anything else. This is anytime accidents, which realistically, it's a nasty unload, but this isn't really an accident. You know, accident, that category is like when people get hurt. No one was really hurt here. So manufacturer didn't do anything wrong. Maintenance didn't do anything wrong. I would have liked to see the operations people e-stop the ride sooner than what they did. That's the only really area I could say like, hey, if they had just e-stopped it like after that third boat landed down there, then I that would have made everything a lot better. But realistically, it's nothing horrible. It's just a set of circumstances that lined up. Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure you like and subscribe, do all that stuff. If you need to, you can email me at ryantheridermechanic@yahoo.com. And as always, remember, stay off the air gates. Bye.